My family ditched my Christmas party to celebrate at my brother's. Months later, my grandpa left me $3 million, and I made them rent the house they begged me to save. You don't deserve it, Dad said when I called to invite him to the Christmas party. He didn't even pretend to be polite about it. That sentence didn't just cut. It unraveled years of quiet wounds I'd buried beneath ambition, long work hours, and the facade of success I built like armor. I'm Asher. I'm 28 years old, head of sales at a major real estate firm in Austin, Texas. My apartment sits on the 15th floor, overlooking the Colorado River, floor-to-ceiling windows, Scandinavian minimalist everything. If you walked in, you'd assume I had it all figured out. But you'd be wrong. Because the truth is, I planned a perfect Christmas party for 30 people who never showed. And not just any people. My family. My blood. Instead, they all ghosted me and gathered at my brother Dorian's house without telling me. 30 relatives. Aunts, uncles, cousins, even kids I hadn't seen since they had baby teeth. They all said they'd come. And every single one of them lied to my face. It started a few weeks before Christmas. I had just gotten the promotion I'd worked years for. Head of sales. A fat six-figure salary. I'd finally made it. For once, I felt like I wasn't playing catch-up to Dorian, the family's golden child. So I decided to host Christmas. My place was finally big enough, nice enough. I wanted to make a memory. I called Aunt Lenora first. She sounded thrilled. Uncle Vernon said he'd bring his famous whiskey-glazed ham. Aunt Irene promised her cheesecake. Cousins I hadn't heard from in years RSVP'd with enthusiasm. By the end of the night, I had a guest list of 30. I was giddy, like a kid with a paper crown on his head, believing he might finally be king for a day. And then I made the last 3 calls. Dad, Mom, and Dorian. I should have known. Dad's voice was that familiar brand of disapproval. "Why aren't you having it at your parents' house?" he asked, like I'd broken some sacred rule. Mom's response: "If I have time, I might stop by." No excitement, just vague indifference. Dorian, 2 years older, always one step ahead, always more loved, laughed when I told him the plan. "At your place? Do you even have enough space?" The conversation ended, but the noise in my head didn't. Growing up, I was the afterthought, the leftover. Dorian got everything new: clothes, laptops, even a private summer trip to Europe when he was 16. I got his used bike, his used notebooks, his used praise. My birthdays were grocery store cakes with one family photo. Dorian's? Extravagant parties with clowns, magicians, fireworks. I was the kid who made straight A's and got a shrug. He got a B+ and a parade. Still, I thought maybe, just maybe, I could earn their love with success. That maybe, if I gave enough, they'd see me. So I planned, still filled with the smell of food no one would eat. And I was alone. Not just alone. Abandoned. Grandpa showed up just before 7 p.m. I was still sitting there, in that immaculate room, like the host of a party that only ghosts had RSVP'd to. The doorbell rang once. Not the insistent kind of ring, the kind that says, "I'm here for you." He walked in carrying a wrapped gift, wearing his old camel trench coat, the one with the stitched elbow patches. His smile was as gentle as always, but I saw something different in his eyes that night. Sadness. Maybe guilt. Maybe a quiet understanding that I didn't yet have words for. He looked around the empty room and stopped when he saw the untouched food. "So no one came?" he asked, though he already knew. I shook my head. "Only you." That answer hung between us like smoke. We sat on the couch, surrounded by candlelight and garland, and I told him everything. You could feel the room inhale. He paused, then calmly declared, "Everything I own, my land, my investments, my home, will go to Asher." Silence. Then chaos. "You're kidding, right?" Dorian snapped. "Are you out of your mind?" my mother gasped. Uncle Vernon rose, fists clenched. "This is a mistake. A party doesn't define worth." And that's when Grandpa leaned in and said the words that silenced the room. "No, but betrayal does." When Grandpa finished speaking, the room cracked open like glass under pressure. Dorian stood first. Of course he did. "You can't be serious," he said, voice trembling with a rage I hadn't seen since he lost a tennis match in high school and smashed his racket into the ground. "You're giving everything to him?" Grandpa nodded once, as steady as a stone in a river. "That's right." My father jumped in next. "This is outrageous. He hasn't done anything for this family." I didn't speak. I just sat there, still holding that sense of disbelief in my hands like a hot mug, burning, but too personal to let go of. It was Aunt Celeste who said what everyone else was probably thinking. You're punishing the rest of us because we didn't go to some Christmas party? And Grandpa, calm, almost amused, replied, it wasn't just a party. It was a mirror. That hit differently. He turned to them, eyes sharper than I'd ever seen. You all chose Dorian over Asher, over and over. That night was just the final proof. You'd think a revelation like that would end things. It didn't. Instead, Dorian snapped into desperation mode. Grandpa, don't do this. I'm working on a huge crypto deal. Family coin. It'll triple your investment. I can get all of us rich. There it was. That same charm he used to hustle his way through life. The rehearsed smile. The financial fairy tale. The same one that made my parents borrow $300,000 and hand it over without reading the fine print. Grandpa scoffed, louder than I expected. I'm not stupid, kid. I should have been enjoying the show, but the truth is, I wasn't. I was remembering something else. It was July 4th. I was 11. Dorian was 13. Back then, our parents used to host big neighborhood firework nights. That year, Dorian had a friend named Reggie over. Reggie was louder than him, brasher, a born leader. And I was the third wheel. Always the extra. We had a box of fireworks out back, and Dorian had been told, explicitly, not to touch them unsupervised. But Reggie goaded him. Come on, man, don't be a wimp. Let's light one. I watched from behind the screen door, holding 2 paper cups of juice. Dorian picked up a Roman candle and lit it, just as Dad stepped outside. The thing popped, loud and bright, and startled Dad so bad he dropped the cooler. What the hell are you doing? He screamed. Before I could step out, Dorian spun around and pointed at me. It was Asher. He brought them out. I dropped the juice. My face went cold. Dad didn't ask questions. He just stormed inside, grabbed me by the collar, and yelled until my ears rang. That night, as everyone watched the fireworks burst in the sky, I sat alone in my room. And I remembered thinking, this isn't about what happened. It's about who they want to believe. Flash forward to now, and nothing's changed. Dorian lied. They believed him. I told the truth. They called it selfish. Even when the lawyer confirmed the will was final, even when Grandpa stood firm, my mother still leaned in toward me with narrowed eyes and whispered, You're really going to let this divide the family? I stared at her. I wanted to laugh. Divide the family? They divided it years ago, slice by slice. Every time they compared me to Dorian, every time they overlooked me, every time they assumed I'd accept scraps and call it love. And now, faced with consequences, they wanted unity? I didn't answer. The meeting ended with chaos. People yelling, chairs scraping, doors slamming. Dorian tried one last time. Asher, think about the legacy. Think about the name. I finally looked at him and said, I am. That's why I'm making sure it doesn't belong to a liar. He didn't respond. They left. All of them. And as the last car peeled out of the driveway, I looked at Grandpa. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. We both knew something had ended. And something else, something better, had begun. It started with the knock. Not even a week had passed since the will reading, and already they were at my door. Aunt Celeste arrived first. Her eyes were red, but her makeup was perfect. She clutched her purse like it was armor. Asher, she said, voice cracking. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't urgent. I didn't invite her in. She stood in the hallway of my condo, framed by warm lighting and cold tension. It's Dennis, she continued, referring to her husband. His heart. We need $25,000 for surgery. We don't have insurance. He let the policy lapse last year. I wanted to say I was sorry. I wanted to say I'd help. But I didn't. Instead, I said, why not ask Dorian? Or Dad? She flinched like I'd slapped her. We did, she whispered. He's not reachable. 2 days later, Uncle Vernon appeared. Same script. Different tone. It's about Caleb. His college tuition is due. We're short. Just 10 grand. Alone, even. Then the cousins. One needed money for car repairs. Another for a roof leak. Each of them delivered with a painful smile, like they thought if they looked pitiful enough, the history would evaporate. But what hit me the hardest wasn't the financial asks. It was my parents. They started small. A text here, a check in there. My mom suddenly remembered I liked black coffee with 2 sugars. My father began sending me investment articles, asking what I thought. You always had a sharp head, he wrote in one email. We should talk more. I could smell the desperation like cheap cologne. It stank. The real moment came with a call from my mother. No pretense this time. No warm-up. Asher, she said sharply. We need your help. The bank's going to take the house. She confessed they'd borrowed $300,000 against the house. All of it went to Dorian for his family coin scheme. They trusted him, believed in him. He said we'd double our money in 3 months, she explained. He was so confident. I let her finish, then I laughed. Cold, bitter, the kind of laugh that comes from scar tissue. I'll make you an offer, I said. I'll buy the house for $500,000. But I'm not giving you the money to save it. She gasped. That's predatory. It's cruel. No, I said calmly. It's a business transaction. That night, I told Grandpa everything. He just nodded and said, they tried the same with me. I had to call the police to get them off my lawn. He wasn't surprised. He'd expected this. Maybe he always had. And then came the Starbucks meeting. They were all there. Uncle Vernon, Aunt Celeste, their kids. Hunched over drinks they weren't touching. I almost didn't recognize them. They looked older, more defeated. They told me the truth. Dorian had vanished. No phone calls. No texts. He'd deleted every account, pulled every plug. The family coin website was gone. The investment firm he claimed to work with? A shell. They were out $1. 6 million. Gone. And somehow, they thought I was the answer. You're his brother, Aunt Celeste snapped. You owe us this. Oh, you. I replied, stunned. For what? For being the only one with money now. I stood, threw a 20 on the table, and said, you made your bed. Lie in it. Uncle Vernon stood too. Didn't Grandpa give you $3 million? 3.5. Actually, I replied. You should be sharing that. Tell Dorian that when he resurfaces, I said. Or better yet, tell the police. As I walked out, I heard Aunt Celeste sob. But I didn't turn around. They weren't crying for me. They were crying for themselves. Later that night, my father called again. This time, his voice was slower, more composed. We've talked, he said. Your mother and I. We'll sell the house. For the $500,000 you offered. Then, of course, the catch. But we want to stay in it. I almost admired the audacity. You can't, I said. For $3,000 a month in rent. Silence. Then fury. You're punishing us. I shrugged, even though he couldn't see it. No, I'm treating you like adults. He hung up. 10 minutes later, he called back. This time quieter, softer. We'll take $170,000. Just buy us out. We'll move. I agreed. And for the first time in my life, the power was mine, not because I fought for it, but because I finally stopped begging for it. My parents moved out on a Tuesday. They didn't say goodbye. They didn't even leave a note. Just boxes piled on the sidewalk, a pair of sagging lawn chairs, and my childhood bedroom stripped of everything but the cracks in the wall. I didn't visit the house that day. I waited until the locksmith called to say the new keys were ready. When I stepped inside, it was like entering a movie set after the actors had gone home. Hollow, but still echoing with the things they used to say. Why can't you be more like Dorian? Why don't you try harder? Why are you always so quiet? Now it was just a house. Wood, drywall, and 1,300 square feet of things I no longer feared. Grandpa came with me the next morning. He walked from room to room, not saying much, just humming a little as he tapped the corners with his cane. In the kitchen, he stopped and looked at me. You did good, he said. I nodded. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It wasn't even about justice. It was about control. For the first time, I wasn't reacting to the world. I was shaping it. Then came the final twist. Aunt Celeste and Uncle Vernon approached me again, this time with legal documents. They were facing foreclosure on their own home. The bank was circling. Their retirement funds? Gone. Their savings? Emptied into family coin. They wanted me to buy their house too. I declined. Politely. Firmly. Completely. Later that month, Dorian was arrested. Turns out Aunt Celeste had reported him to the authorities after he refused to answer her calls. The crypto scam unraveled fast. Fake LLCs, ghost wallets. He'd used the family as his private piggy bank and was facing charges for financial fraud, wire fraud, and identity manipulation. He's still awaiting trial. He hasn't tried to contact me. I'm not even sure what I'd say if he did. My life now? Simple. The 200-acre ranch Grandpa left me, we're leasing part of it to local farmers. With the proceeds, we launched the David Miller Scholarship Fund, named after Grandpa, for underprivileged students who want to study computer science or engineering. In its first year, we funded 17 scholarships. I still visit Grandpa every weekend. We sit on the porch. We drink black coffee. We talk about nothing and everything. One Saturday, he turned to me and said, "You ever regret it?" What? Walking away from them. I thought about it for a moment. The truth is, I don't. They showed me who they were, and I believed them. But more importantly, I showed myself who I could be, and I believe that too. Sometimes I walk past the mirror in my condo and don't recognize the man looking back. He stands taller. He doesn't flinch when people raise their voices. He doesn't apologize for existing. He's not the kid who got left out of the party. He's the man who bought the house they thought they'd die in. The man who said no. The man who finally chose himself.